Hello, welcome back to all of you. It's great to have you back in the studio with us. Today we will be taking up the subject of Does Mythology Hold a Key? This is a talk in a series entitled Karma, Destiny and Choice, and it is my honor to be interviewing Sister Denise, who is a wealth of wisdom and spiritual knowledge on the subject of the law of karma. Sister Denise, it's a pleasure to have you with us in the studio.
Thank you.
The world is filled with mythological figures and characters. I recall reading stories about Greek mythology and Roman mythology, as well as Hindu mythology. And obviously, those are just three in a vast category of various mythological characters. Do they have any relevance as far as the law of karma is concerned?
I think that they do. To me, I also had intense interest in mythology, especially mythology as a key, because mythology tends to be prior to the current era. And the current era is the era of materialism, science, patriarchal system. The main religions of the world are the dominant philosophies. But mythology refers to the pre-Christian dark ages. To me, it connects us quite well with the philosophy of karma, the concept of destiny, and I think it's going to help us to make our choices. One thing that comes to my mind initially is the importance of the feminine in mythology. In Christianity, you have the cult of Mary with all sorts of symbols connected with her, and you have many attributes of the Virgin Mary that correspond exactly with the Indian Shaktis. They are women who are fully armored in plenty of weapons and with very sweet faces and destroying devils, and they are really powerful women. But in the current era, the women are really disempowered, and I think there is a deep connection. Even among the patriarchy, there is a hunger for the mother figure. In Mexico, you have this strange combination of the mother, the virgin, the crone, and the prostitute. These four aspects of the feminine are what the current era puts on women at this time. The virgin, you have to be virgin, you have to be pure, and you have to be young, because we're going to destroy you. If you are sexually active or attractive, then we're going to call you a prostitute, and sometimes we need you to be that, but we're going to punish you for it. The mother, you have to look after me in every possible way and pamper me and so on. I need a mother. And the crone, the old woman, is on one hand the protector of the agriculture, the one who holds the family together, and also the one who knows the mysteries, healing, and also who's ugly and who's going to die. So this current era has this quite negative but ambivalent relationship with the symbol of the feminine. Then the pre-Christian era has the feminine in a very potent, powerful position and is worshipped as a goddess. You also see this in the Greek and Roman mythology, to some extent in the South American mythology and the Nordic mythology. And another mythological character is the androgynous character. And in India there is the character of Vishnu, where there are 4 arms, which is a combination of the male and the female, the couple. And the foundation of human harmonious society is when the man and the woman are in a complementary relationship, and everything goes wrong when the woman is in a subordinate position to the man. And that has been going on for more than 1,000 years. And prior to 1,000 years, there is something we call in Europe the Dark Ages.
So what you are saying is, in times gone by, when men and women were on the same level, then the law of karma was balanced, the scales were balanced.
Much more balanced, yes.
And now that's no longer the case, and so everything has gone haywire.
Yes.
It starts with relationships.
It starts with the idea that a person is either a man or a woman. And the law of karma says you're neither a man nor a woman, you're anyway both. It changes from life to life. So, you have the same number of births in a male body as you do in a female body. So you cannot say, I am a man or I am a woman. You must acknowledge your genderlessness. All morality, traditions, and so on that we live with in the world today are based on this discrimination. Either you're a man or you're a woman. One law for men, another law for women. The law of karma says, what are you talking about? It's the same law applies to everyone, man, woman, child. And so this is a first problem. A second problem is color of body. In the symbolism, in the mythology, the bodies of the goddesses and the male deities are shown sometimes white, sometimes black. In India, which is really the seed place of all of this myth and symbolism, in the north, characteristically people are of paler complexion, and in the south characteristically of darker complexion. So they would take the symbolism to refer to anyone with a dark skin is inferior, anyone with a light skin is superior. But it actually refers to the color of the soul. And the color of the soul is to do with the brightness or dullness. So when the soul is really pure, it's a very bright aura. When the soul is really impure, it's a very dull aura. And then another aspect of it is that the negative energies are characterized by particular colors. As we say, green with envy, yellow with cowardice, white with fear, blue with depression, red with anger, and black with lust. Their face will be tinged a little bit with this coloring, and it can be considered like an aura. Ganesh is the child of God whose head got cut off by God and then replaced with an elephant's head. And this is beautiful symbolism that really gives us something to think about. You are a child of God as a human being. An elephant is symbolic of someone great. The long trunk is symbolic of your discernment power. Like people say, oh, I can smell a rat, or I can smell money, or, you can tell it's around. Discernment. Big ears, you know what's going on. Little eyes, you're not looking. You don't poke your nose where it doesn't belong. An elephant is said to have a very long memory. An elephant is always symbolic of humility. So the myth is that if you wish to become free and come into your personal power, you have to have an ego death. You have to get that head cut off. So all of these symbols, you can go through each one and look at the details of the weapons of the goddesses, for example. Goddesses, they have a trident. These weapons refer to spiritual powers. And a trident refers to a person who is able to be conscious of the self as a soul and conscious of God and conscious of destiny, 3 in 1. And this is a very stable stage, and it's an excellent weapon in the face of any challenge that comes along. The sword. Swords are ceremonial. In the Sikh religion, for example, any Sikh man or woman must carry some sort of knife. This refers to the intellect. You need to be able to analyze situations so clearly that you can make good choices. We talked earlier about good choices. Symbols of the wheel. This is a very, very ancient symbol. You have the symbol of the swastika. To most people in the modern world, it refers to Nazism, but this is an ancient symbol that you find eons ago. And the word swastika means that you know yourself. And in the temple at Delphi in Greece, you can see a very ancient stone with a carving, know yourself. You know, the most important thing, the message from the ancient past is until and unless you know yourself, you can't really go anywhere.
As I'm listening to you, the one figure that comes to mind is one of those Greek characters with multiple heads. From what I remember from Greek mythology is that every time one of those heads were cut off, others would grow back. What is the explanation behind that?
This is the many-headed Hydra, which is one of the labors of Hercules. And Hercules, his story was that he ate his children. And he had these 12 labors as the penance that he had to do. And people have a hard time figuring out what this all means. But it has to do with a culture that is fundamentally toxic, but people didn't realize, because of this splitting of the male and female that carries from generation to generation to generation, and everything gets worse and worse and worse, and the imbalance is increased because of this split, which is also shown in Adam and Eve splitting apart from each other. It's her fault and he's innocent, and excuse me, it takes two to tango, so what are you talking about? The many-headed Hydra corresponds to something that we do in our spiritual practice of Raj Yoga. The snake refers to the vices. The snake is anyway symbolic of several things. On one hand, it's symbolic of sexuality. On the other hand, is the kundalini, the energy that going up the spine, and it's also in the caduceus, the dual snake, which goes up with the 2 wings, the symbol of medicine and pharmacy. You heal when all this energy of the 2 aspects is balanced, and the 2 aspects is your purity and your sin. They have to be balanced. This is also referred to in the cycle, and the yin-yang symbol. You have to have the dark side and the light side, and you have to acknowledge them and balance them, and then you are free. So the many-headed Hydra, when you cut one off, 2 grow in its place. This means that if you, by your willpower, try to control one of your character defects, it's going to double in strength. So what Hercules had to do is he had to have a sword in one hand and a torch in the other. So he had to cut and burn. And in the spiritual practice of meditation and Raj Yoga, if you discern a negative characteristic in yourself, just cutting it won't work. You have to sear it with the power of yoga, and it's really this inner power that enables you to transcend your character defects and limitations. And this is all symbolized in this mythology.
My mind is now going to the Jewish symbol of the dual triangle. That has been in my mind for many years. Explain that to us.
one is the triangle going upwards, and then the other one is where the point is down. So there are many different interpretations of this. In the Judeo-Christian symbolism, you have also the idea of the Trinity. And in India, there is a Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. This triangle refers to one is plus, one is minus, one is zero. You have to add spiritual information to yourself. That is absorption. You have to minus whatever toxins and poisons are in your soul through tapasya, through the intense meditation. And this combination of addition and subtraction brings you to a 0 point, which is the stage of perfection. So 0 is the symbol of perfection. Presiding over that triangle is the point of light of God. Then the one pointing downwards refers to, okay, you've taken this from God, now you have to give the return to the world. And so people say in Hermetics, you know, as above, so below, this kind of idea. And for me, it's very much connected with the idea of macrocosm and microcosm. Because transformation cannot be done by, you know, pointing the finger and trying to do something out there. It's always bigger than what you can do. Whatever you do on your own self is going to impact the larger world. And so this is the way of a yogi. You do all the work on yourself in the understanding that anyway it's going to be mirrored in the world sooner or later.
I recently watched something which was a program about the Mexican culture celebrating the Day of the Dead. And at first glance, if one is not used to it, it looks morbid. But the more I heard about it and read about it, the more fascinated I became. And from what I understand, this is quite a big celebration in that country. What is that about?
Yeah, this is very important, and it's also reflected in many other cultures. In India, you have something called Kali Chodas. And this is where all the souls, or like in Christianity, All Souls Day, there's also the Day of the Dead. So who are the dead? In the Gita, it says anyone who's dead is going to take birth, and anyone who's alive is going to die. So the Day of the Dead has to do with connecting yourself with your previous incarnations and your subsequent incarnations, so that you are very much aware of the whole continuity. And the dead inform the present time. So you need to have a connection with the dead. And in Mexico, it is a Roman Catholic country, but a lot of these rituals come from much older pre-Christian religions, animist religions, and so on. And before Christianity, and that means early Christianity included reincarnation and so on, but later it was excluded. But the Day of the Dead is very much connected with understanding that you reincarnate and you are connected with your ancestors. And even in the spiritual practice that I do, where you're following all your different reincarnations, you're following the reincarnations of the ancestors, because they have to reincarnate, so they're here somewhere. Any historical figure is here somewhere, but in a disguised form. And even the ancients, the gods and goddesses who used to walk the earth, you know, they have now reincarnated as ordinary people, and they are disconnected from their former selves. So I think the celebration of the Day of the Dead is a way to connect us with this cycle. And in Mexico they also have, like we have in India, they have the cycle of 5,000 years, which we know of as the Mayan calendar. Yeah? So all these things are connected, and what they also do, they connect the different cultures with each other. There's a common thread, and there is a common seed. I think that spiritual practice and study is a way to follow all these different paths down to the seed itself. And from the seed, you get clarification on the meaning of all of this. You can put all this tangled jigsaw puzzle together where all the pieces are scattered everywhere.
I am now thinking of the continent of Africa, where ancestors play an extremely important current role in the lives of many. Why is that the case?
There are two ways in which you can know something. Either it is handed down through the ancients, from the ancestors, and this is how come people know something, and because it is believed that there is nothing new in the earth. So all the wisdom was known to the ancestors, and as long as they can hand it down, things will carry on well. One of the problems in Africa, which is encapsulated in this book, Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, describes how the advent of Christian missionaries broke this and everything became weak. So this is a very, very strong belief that still persists in India. It never was able to be broken in spite of many invasions and so on. So India could hold this ancient connectedness and roots. In Africa, you see, when you try to connect with the ancestors, you're trying to reassert that. But the second way in which you can know something, which has to do with science, is by discovery. And so science really, with Galileo, and then in the 20th century with Einstein and all of this, created information that people could discover and discern and find out. And these ancient and modern ways of knowing are mostly in clash with each other, but what needs to happen is they need to merge together because they are anyway converging. And this knowledge of science and technology, when you put it together with the real spiritual knowledge, becomes the foundation of the coming civilization, and it is a seed of what's next, because the current way of doing everything is falling apart due to this bifurcation of humanity into males and females who are seen to be practically different species.
Sister Denise, how do we use all of our understanding and appreciation of symbology and mythology to help us in current day living, specifically within the context of understanding the law of karma?
Many individuals have a natural affinity with mythology, and they tend to use it as something which validates an idea and gives it credibility. For other people, mythology is just imagination. But I think the importance is when you can decrypt this material, you realize that mythology has been a way to preserve truth that was otherwise getting destroyed at every turn along the way, and it enabled it to survive. And then once you decrypt it and look at it in all of its splendor, then you can see, yes, this is totally relevant to me today. And then you need to actually shift your consciousness to be able to include the hidden meaning contained within mythology in your daily life.
Thank you. This has been extremely educational. So there you go, those of you listening at home. Mythology. We have, as a human race, always had mythology in our midst. There's scarcely a single country across the globe that doesn't have symbology or mythology, not just from now, but obviously from ancient times. And Sister Denise has shared quite beautifully how relevant all of those symbols and myths can be used in our daily life, and how we could understand them and use them to our advantage. So thank you. And thank you at home for joining us. Take care and goodbye.